Dear viewers, welcome to episode 4 of Lost Sydney. I'm your friendly host, Ben Summers of Ben's History Videos, and let's begin. Sydney used to have an extensive tram network, with a fleet of over 1,500 trams of different types. Most were used to carry passengers, but there was one which carried passengers who were definitely more interesting and colourful. Picture this. It's Sydney during the early 1940s. You're walking through Darlinghurst when you spot an electric tram approaching you. Straight away, you notice this tram is different. For starters, it's painted brown, but in an even stranger twist, the words "No Passengers" are visible in black lettering at each end of the car, right above the headlights. You've just witnessed the operation of Sydney's most distinctive tramcar, but what's the story behind it? This is Long Bay Prison. Numerous offenders have been incarcerated here since the first wing of the jail opened in 1909. When the facility began operation, motor vehicles were much scarcer than now, so a question arose: how to transport inmates between the Darlinghurst police station, the Darlinghurst courthouse, and the prison. The answer would be an ingenious and inspired one. Randwick Workshops was the main workshop facility for the Sydney tramway system, boasting a strong workforce of people skilled in all the trades needed to build tramcars. Our story continues in the next chapter. In amidst their usual tasks, the workshop staff at Randwick toiled away on a most unusual tram, bearing the number 948. Meanwhile, Long Bay Prison received a dedicated siding for the transport of prisoners, who boarded from a platform inside the prison complex. The fruits of the labourers at Randwick emerged on the 25th of September 1909, entering service shortly after. Thus began the career of Sydney's solitary prison tram. Once in regular service, 948 became a frequent sight in Sydney's eastern suburbs. Its operations were restricted to servicing Darlinghurst Police Station, Darlinghurst Courthouse, and Long Bay Prison. At the station, prisoners would alight and walk through a subway which connected the police station and the courthouse. Excepting the period of heavy tram traffic which occurred at Easter in Moore Park, 948's route remained largely unaltered for much of its career. Like all vehicles, 948 needed occasional maintenance. When this need arose, it would be replaced by an O-class passenger tram, which had a centre compartment that could be closed off by the use of sliding doors. Over a long career stretching 41 years, 948 enjoyed a mostly uneventful existence, with many journeys going smoothly. There was, however, one incident which saw the tram enter the headlines for all the wrong reasons. 948 was under the command of driver Harry Perry on the 4th of March 1946. The time was 7:45 a.m. That day's load of prisoners were chatting loudly amongst themselves, though above the noise Perry heard the sound of rushing footsteps approaching his cab. It was one of the two escorting police constables, and he had an urgent message. "Hold it," he said. "I think I've lost 2 of my prisoners." Travelling at about 8 or 9 miles, 13 or 14 kilometres per hour, driver Perry hurriedly brought the tram to a halt, and sure enough, one of the cells was empty. 2 prisoners, Darcy Dugan, aged 25, and Robert Lewis, aged 18, had made a daring daylight dash for freedom. Dugan and Lewis had smuggled a serrated prison knife on board the tram. Sawing their way through the roof, which they then climbed onto near Roberts Road, Kensington, the duo made for Centennial Park. In their haste, Lewis and Dugan left behind the knife they had used in their compartment. 948 proceeded onwards to Darlinghurst Police Station, where investigators from the police inspected it. A major manhunt involving 300 officers was launched to find Dugan and Lewis, whose spell of freedom was brought to an end the next day. Following on from a lead provided by a civilian, the police headed to Gladesville, where Lewis was arrested after a scuffle which led to one officer copping a few blows. Dugan, meanwhile, continued to roam free. The police were hot on his heels, and he was apprehended in Hunter's Hill after an intensive search effort. He was tired and in need of food, and his arrest was uneventful. Both men were returned to prison to serve out their sentences. Darcy Dugan died in 1991, aged 71. After this drama, 948's roof was repaired and it resumed normal service. However, a threat had emerged. Motor vehicles had come a long way since 1909 and were now viewed by many as a viable option. Adding to this, the Department of Road Transport and Tramways was informed by the New South Wales Police Department that it would no longer cover the expense of maintaining and crewing 948, choosing to purchase a specialised truck for its role. The tram's body also needed heavy maintenance. These three factors led to 948's withdrawal on the 19th of January 1950, following one last run. That year, on the 11th of December, the tram was returned to its birthplace of Randwick Workshops to await scrapping. Its future appeared bleak. Luckily, fate had different ideas. At the time, Australia's tram preservation movement was getting started, and a sympathetic Department of Road Transport and Tramways saw the value of saving this tram. On the 17th of January 1951, 948 was donated by the department to the Australian Electric Traction Association. 948 initially went into storage at Newtown Depot, joining a small but growing collection of trams selected for preservation. These trams formed the basis of the Sydney Tramway Museum's early preservation efforts. A little more than 6 years later, on the 18th of March 1957, and 948 found itself on the back of a semi-trailer truck for the move from Newtown to the Sydney Tramway Museum's old site in the Royal National Park in Loftus. It became the second tram to arrive at this location. The museum was based there until forced to move to the present site, which opened to the public in 1988. Since then, this tram, which is presently inoperative, has sat in the display hall, providing many visitors with a fascinating insight into a little-known aspect of Sydney's transport heritage. Prison trams weren't unheard of elsewhere, seeing use in places like Montreal in Canada and Berlin in Germany. These examples, however, were converted from passenger trams. 948 was built as a prison tram, and it is likely the only one in the world designed for that specific purpose. It is thus unique among the world's tramcars. I myself have enjoyed plenty of visits to the Sydney Tramway Museum, and so I have included a link to their website underneath this video. As this is a voluntary promotion, I received no money in exchange. Thanks for watching this video, which I hope you found interesting and enjoyable. Thank you also for spending time learning about the history of this very special tramcar. Episode 6 will be uploaded on the last Sunday in May, so please watch this space.